Hi, this is Mary Baca with Remotely Unique podcast show. I haven't seen you guys in a few weeks. But I'm here today in the studio to talk to you about resilience. In fact, the title of today's show is Resilience, the Road to Freedom. And what prompted me choosing this topic is I saw a post on Facebook from this guy this week. He's not a guy that I know personally, just a Facebook and probably a newer Facebook acquaintance. But he was really, really so sad and upset that he was suicidal. And it was beautiful to see how lots of people, some people that obviously knew him and some people like me that didn't know him, just participated in providing support and being compassionate. And one gal even offered to drive him to the hospital. He's located in Las Cruces. But, and then he did get help, because he later posted that he got help and he's, not giving up. But he's not the only one I've seen on Facebook. And certainly, I'm a mental health provider as well as a holistic practitioner. So I see lots of people struggle on and off through the 38 years that I've been doing this. And it's always bothersome to a point, bothersome in terms of I just feel really bad sometimes for people. But one of the things is when you talk about resilience, there's some very unique characteristics of people that are resilient and characteristics that a person either already has or they can gain that really just help all of us make it through the tough times. We've all been through tough times. Like there isn't anybody I know that truthfully can answer the question if you were to ask them if they've ever, just really been hit by a sledgehammer in the head by life. We all have had those times. One of the quotes that I pulled up from Thomas Edison was, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And that statement really starts to explore what resilience is, which some people think that making it past adverse situations is resilient. It is, but it's also the makeup of a resilient person that really, when you start to look at it, and I'm going to talk about it, that really helps you see why those people in particular make it past the challenges that life hands them. One of the things is that no matter if somebody is struggling in their work life or their career or their romantic life or friendships, they're able to see things as lessons instead of failures. It's so huge, how we look at things, how we choose to think about things. And some people have just been through so much in life, so many hurts that they just can't get there. It doesn't mean that, they can't get there temporarily. That's part of the reason to get help, right? Whether it's to see a pastor or go to counseling or go to mentoring or coaching or something where you can reach out and be taught some skills, because we're not born with skills. We have to be taught them. So one of the things about resilient people is they don't dwell on their failures. They don't dwell on the negative. They're able to move pretty quickly into a position where they look at things more positive and look at things more like, instead of looking at things as a mistake, they look at things as a lesson. And it doesn't mean that they don't hurt. I mean, even resilient people, hurt and have emotions and sometimes feel hopeless, but they don't dwell and stay stuck in that situation, and that is the difference. Some of the other characteristics are, for example, when you talk about challenges, resilient people view difficulty as a challenge. Even myself, when people come into my office, whether it's for holistic services, mentoring, coaching, or counseling, I talk to them about how, okay, you're struggling and you're going through some challenging times, but to me, I view that as a good thing. I know that sounds crazy, right? But the reason why I say that is because it really is the opportunity for growth. And it's okay to need help with that growth. I really myself believe that that's one of the things we're supposed to get from this lifetime is the ability to lean on people for help and reach out when we need to do that. One of the other aspects of being resilient is commitment. So resilient people are committed to their lives and their goals. They're able to maintain a focus. And again, nobody's 100% perfect. How boring life would be if we were. But resilient people tend to be able to have that commitment and that focus to what their goals are, and that they want to be able to have a reason to get up and get out of bed every morning. One of the other aspects of a resilient person is personal control. So resilient people focus on the things that they have control over. And you'll see so many people, and I've been in that position for sure before myself when I was much less healthier mentally and emotionally, where people can put so much focus and emphasis on things that are external to them, places, people, and things, right? And if you focus too much on those external things instead of going inward, that's kind of a pretty hopeless and powerless place to be. So one of the things I tell people when I work with them is I say, you're responsible. And a lot of times people will say, I know, I'm responsible. I effed up. It's my fault. And I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, you're responsible, which to me is equal to, and you can do something about it. You can change whatever your circumstances are by changing your thinking, which will then change your feelings about things. If we focus too much on other people, places, and things, we can't control what other people do. We can't. We have zero power over what somebody else is going to do. But we have every ounce of power, even though some moments I know it doesn't feel like that. We have every ounce of power over ourselves and what we're going to choose to do and not do in any given situation. The other thing about a resilient person or a characteristic is permanence. So seeing things as being temporary, seeing things problematic or mistakes in life as a temporary setback, and being able to see beyond that things can, be okay again. That even when mistakes happen, that it's going to be okay, and I can get back in my lane. I always talk to people about that. Get back in your lane. It's just right there, and move forward with the positive place that you were at before. So that's another example. Pervasiveness. Resilient people don't let setbacks or bad events affect other unrelated aspects of their life. So for example, a resilient person, instead of, might say, I'm not very good at this, rather than saying, I'm no good at anything. We have to be careful for those words that are absolute words, like always, never. First of all, those aren't really accurate, because absolutes aren't what happens 100% of the time. And they also tend to just restrict us. So it's so important to not speak in absolutes. So that's a good example is, I'm not very good at this, as opposed to saying, I'm not good at anything. I just suck, Personalization is another attribute. So for example, people who are resilient don't blame themselves when a bad event occurs. They may take responsibility for their part in it, but they don't get into what I would call a shame spiral, where they just, and it really does become a spiral. We have to be really careful with that. When you take that first step to put yourself down, you really have to be careful that doesn't become a spiral, and then you just end up in this abyss of self-shaming, toxic, like waste, that you put on yourself. So instead saying, I didn't get the support I needed to finish that project successfully, instead of, I messed that project up because I can't do my job. So, those differences might seem really subtle to some of you, but they're not. The impact that they have are huge. Resilient people have solid goals and a desire to achieve those goals and make tangible goals. And they don't have to be, when you set goals, you don't have to move mountains. You don't have to climb Mount Everest. You can start with small goals, and again, that's some of the ways that counseling or mentoring or coaching can help you, excuse me, is to be able to set small goals, to take a big goal and kind of chunk it up into smaller goals that are more attainable, that you feel like you can achieve and accomplish. Resilient people are empathetic and compassionate, but they don't waste time worrying about what others think of them. There used to be a time, it's been many, many years, so, it's almost hard to remember, but I used to be, how many years ago? Maybe like 10 years ago, 7 years ago. I really was caught up in what other people thought about me. And I've gotten increasingly better through the years, but now, probably for the last 6 years, I would say, pretty solidly, I don't really care what people think. Like, I have a strong spiritual foundation, and so I care what I'm doing spiritually that holds true and faithful to my faith in God and my spirit team. But outside from that, as far as human beings go, I don't really care. And I know that may sound weird, but certainly I care about people that are in my life and people who I respect. I care to a degree what they think about me, but it's that small because at the end of the day, I know what I feel inside. If I'm showing up in life in good faith and with good intentions for people and for myself. So that's kind of what I mean by that. But resilient people, and yeah, I am referring to myself as a resilient person. And again, it has not always been like that. I've been through lots of counseling. I've had lots of all kinds of holistic work done. I've seen shamans. I've had hypnotherapy done. I've had kinesiology done. I've had emotion code done. I've had all kinds of things, everything you could name, under the sun. I've had EMDR, and all of those things have truly helped me become who I am today, probably the most profound being my spiritual faith, truly, I'll be honest with you. But years ago, I was not a resilient person, I was one of the dwellers, and I would overthink things and focus on negative. And I just don't do that now. When something happens in my life, and it can be significant, it can be big. In fact, this week, some really major things happen in business that I could choose to look at as negative, and I could dwell, and I could just get stuck in that abyss, but I won't do that. And it's not that I don't care. I acknowledge it, and I sift through it, and I learn from that experience what I need to learn while I'm moving forward. And I just really always try to just keep moving forward, and it feels so much better than getting stuck, you guys. I'll tell you that much. It really does. And I ask for help. If I need help from my therapist, or, I have so many friends who can work on me. I have holistic practitioners who can work on me. I definitely walk the walk and talk the talk. If I need help getting back in my lane, then I'll do that myself. Some of the ways that you can build resilience is, one, learn to relax. I know when people come in to see me in whatever way, whatever reason they come in to see me, I can feel their energy radiating off their body if it's relaxed and peaceful and calm, or if it's almost like electric because it's so much anxiety, and anything in between, And so it's hard for people to learn how to relax. It is so hard for people to meditate and practice relaxation techniques. And sometimes people don't know how to do that. There's a million, I'm exaggerating with the number, but there's so many videos on YouTube that you can pull up on relaxation and meditation and mindfulness that will resonate with who you are, and then that will help you learn a way. But do it. It's so important. One of the other ways to build resilience is practice thought awareness. So often when I ask people, well, what were you thinking when that happened? When you engaged in that behavior? Because, most of the time we're going to be aware of our behaviors before we are aware of our thoughts and feelings. So I'll oftentimes start with behavior and then work my way back. So I'll say, okay, when you exhibited that behavior, you displayed that behavior, what were your thoughts? And it's not uncommon for people to be like, I don't know what I was thinking. So coming to a point where you can practice thought awareness is very, very helpful. Just even attempting to get in touch with your thoughts is a good starting point. And then another way to build resilience is edit your outlook. So there's a technique called cognitive restructuring that's part of cognitive therapy, which I'm very familiar with just from doing counseling and coaching and mentoring. Also, you can use cognitive restructuring in, but it's actually changing the way that you think. So taking a negative thought and restructuring it to positive, if you can do that, or to at least neutral. So I tell people, if you can't get to a positive place with that thought, at least get to a neutral place with it. And you can do it, so when people say, what's that saying, you can't or you won't. Really, I think a lot of people give themselves an out and an excuse when they say, I just can't do that. And so I tell people, you can't or you won't, because you really can, Another way to build resilience is learn from your mistakes and failures. So instead of seeing your mistakes as failures, see them as lessons. They really are a lesson and an opportunity to grow. And here's the hard part. If you don't learn the lesson, that sledgehammer that hits you in the head is going to get bigger and heavier and harder. And that, I always hate to see people have to learn that way when they're dragging on the ground, although I've been there too, in years past. So whatever brings you to it, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be where you face plant on the floor figuratively and energetically. Like, you really can be proactive. And choose your response. Speaking about being proactive, you can choose how to respond. That is the thing you have control over. You can choose whether to respond or to react. And you can pretty much tell when people are in reactive mode. It's when they're not being rational, their behavior's off kilter. You could just see it in their behavior to whatever degree. Some people are extremely reactive. So like, say someone's slapping somebody, that would be an extreme, it's abusive, but it also is an extreme reaction. Or you see people who are less reactive, who might have a reactive thought, but they don't turn it into behavior. Okay, so you want to be careful with that. Another way to build resilience is maintain perspective. So resilient people understand that although a situation or crisis may seem overwhelming in the moment, it may not take that much to have an impact. It may not make that much of an impact over the long term. So I once saw this saying that said, is it going to matter in 5 years? If it's not going to matter in 5 years, you shouldn't give much thought to it. And I've used that oftentimes, when it feels like just the end of the world can be happening in the moment. I'm like, yeah, but really, is this something that's going to matter to me in even a year? No, it's probably not. And so then it just makes it so much easier for me to let it go in the moment. Set yourself some goals, that match your values. So if you set a goal that isn't in line with your value, you're not going to work hard at it. Not as hard at it as if it aligns with who you are and what's important to you. So that's another way to build resilience. Build your self-confidence. I know when people come in, I work a lot on their solar plexus. That's a pretty common area that's out of balance, which that is where self-confidence is seated in the body in terms of the chakra system. And so I'll use sound healing, or I'll use crystal work, or I'll use Reiki or quantum alignment or different things, all kinds of things, to be able to work on somebody's solar plexus or just even the issue of self-confidence so that they can be more confident. But a lot of times the lack of self-confidence is shame. That's the truth of it. So if people have self-confidence issues and they go to a retreat that, like a Tony Robbins retreat that teaches them, positive self-affirmations, that'll be a good Band-Aid. But if they don't look at the underlying factors that are causing shame for them, so say, for example, in elementary school, they had a coach or a teacher that constantly just berated them in front of the class and humiliated them. And from that point on, they didn't have self-confidence. If they don't go all the way back there and kind of work on it to clear that, then that, whatever they do in the present time isn't going to be as nearly as effective. Now, that doesn't mean it has to take you years. When I just was a counselor, it could take people years. I mean, I would see people sometimes for years to try to work on shame issues. But now I have so many more skills and tools in my toolbox that it doesn't have to take that long. And I want to really say to all of you, like in your healing ventures or however you approach your healing and how you work on things, if you're leaving your body out of the plan, you're leaving a lot out, because our body stores everything. So going back to that elementary school kid with the coach that would put him down, or the teacher, all of that shame is stored in the body. And so one of the great things is to have energy work done where you help the body release that issue so that the whole system can release it and let go of it. That's so important. Develop strong relationships. So people have strong connections at work and home are more resistant to stress. They're more likely to be happy. And although you have to choose your circles carefully, I do anyways, my social circle is very different now. People that I befriend are very different, the kind of people. And I have some friends that I've met in the holistic realm that are amazing people, and I don't even have to see them very often, but I know that they are there if I needed anything. I know that they're there to have some amazing conversations because we're like-minded, and so that's enjoyable. And it doesn't matter if I don't talk to them very often. When I do, it feeds my soul. Likewise, if I have somebody who I have a conversation with that's like a Debbie Downer, or their energy is just really chaotic, and I'm not talking about clients, because when I get clients that come into my office, I expect that. Like, that's what they're coming in for. They're coming for help. I'm talking about, like, if I take somebody in as a personal friend, I'm very, very choosy and selective of who I do that with. Although there are different levels of friendship as well. But be careful who you take into your social circle. I find it not only helpful, but really kind of critical and necessary to align with people who are compassionate and who are empathetic and who care about people, like truly care about people, not just say they care about people and then their behavior says otherwise, like who say it and their behavior says the same thing, that they truly care about people. That's so important to me. And so resilience, that's part of being resilient and a way to build resilience. So if you're like, well, okay, gosh, I'm realizing I am negative. How do I build resilience? Just start practicing kindness. I mean, that sounds like such a simple thing, and it is a simple thing in a lot of ways, but that will raise your vibration, that will help you heal, that will help you see the positive things instead of focusing on the negative, because here's the deal, my friends. You cannot think about something negative and positive at the same time. You end up having to choose one or the other. One will cancel out the other. That's the truth. And the last way that you can build resilience is to be flexible. Oh my gosh, so many people have to have it be a certain way, or they're very unsettled. And there are some things in life, like if you have a deadline, a project deadline, or somebody's giving you a deadline, you might have to be less flexible than what you'd like to be. But where you can be in life, be flexible. The people that you can be flexible with, be flexible. Some people cannot handle being flexible because they'll never get something done. So there are those people that you kind of have to adjust, just like I would adjust this microphone. We were having some issues with it before we started, and Mike fixed it. But, there are going to be those people that you can't always be flexible with, or you can't be as flexible with, because they'll never pull through. So adjust accordingly. But you never really have to go to this extreme. If you have to go to this extreme of not being flexible, maybe you need to ask if you really need to have that relationship in your life at all. But yeah, those are the key points. Learning to relax, practicing thought awareness, edit your outlook, learn from mistakes and failures, choose your response, maintain perspective, set yourself some goals, build your self-confidence, and develop strong relationships. That comes from mindtools.com, in case you want to look at all the amazing things they have on there. These are all things that I've talked to people over the years that I've provided services to people. And they are things that, I've been able, fortunately, with the help of my mentors and my helpers, have been able to accomplish quite a bit of those now. So I know that it's possible. That's how I know I can encourage you, because I know from my own experience that you can do it. You got this, okay? And you can ask for help. Call me, text me, 505-315-7397. Also, I've had a training institute called Shifting Perspectives Training Institute since 2016. Up to now, I have housed that under the same building, in the same building that I run my Odyssey Counseling and Allies for First Responders and Resilience Integrative Services. But exciting news is I now have leased a building that's 8,000 square feet, and that's where the Institute's going to be. Why is that important to you? Because you can come and learn some of these strategies yourself. I'll be having online and in-person classes that will be very affordable for just lay people who want to learn some skills, and it'll be me teaching them or developing the curriculum, and then some of the amazing instructors I'm hiring and have hired will be teaching them as well. So stay tuned for that. You'll be able to find today's segment. Again, it's called Resilience, the Road to Freedom. You'll be able to find it on Spotify, iTunes, our YouTube channel for Remotely Unique, and at remotelyunique.com. Thanks a lot. Take good care of yourself and each other. Bye for now.